Is the year of the internet. The World Bank it has an annual development report, and the theme this year is the internet. I co-founded the People-Centered Internet with Vint Cerf, whose name you probably are familiar with, one of the fathers of the internet. He's very aware that it's critical that technologists be involved with local communities, because otherwise there's a danger of the current interests, for-profit interests and so on, really taking the internet. For example, the World Bank today uses revenue per user for telecoms companies as a gauge of how it's successful in a country. But how does revenue per user for a telecom company actually improve people's lives in that country? There's a big gap. So in fact, only 1% of all World Bank funding is going to ICT and internet projects, which you as technologists know that technology could be a tremendous ladder up out of poverty for many people. I came from Singapore. 50 years ago, Singapore had the same GDP per capita as Sudan. Today, it's 20% higher than the United States, and there are no resources in Singapore except people. So I believe in people, and a people-centered internet provides the best chance for many to come out of poverty. Backwards, forwards. How do I advance? Sorry. Okay, great. So the UN Sustainable Development Goals are the next realm of where 193 countries have agreed on 17 goals. But within the technology community, we know that, in fact, a great enabler of each of these goals is the internet. The former Swedish Prime Minister has said that the internet will become the infrastructure that underlies all infrastructures. And if that's the case, and 3 out of 5 people in the world are not connected to the internet, how can we as a technology community help that process so that the reach out to people isn't just as consumers, but they can see, as each of you have seen in your own lives, how the internet can enable you to be more than you could be because you can access the world's knowledge. So the World Bank Development Report is about digital dividends. And I'm here to reach out to the IEEE community because digital dividends can only be realized at the local community level if people care. The internet went to Russia. It's surprising what happened. How did it happen? One Moscow State University professor made the difference. He said, the internet's going to be good for Russia, and he brought it in. So each of you can help. I think that we talk about local community projects, but we are a diverse group. The diaspora, the technical diaspora, the people who have moved to other countries can still help the people they left behind through site projects. There is this race between technology and the complements, the socio-cultural complements, that make the difference between why, for example, Sudan is Sudan today and Singapore is Singapore today. And that is the ability, the literacy, the skills, the aptitude, and the cultural mindset that allows a community to take potential tools and use them to fulfill the human potential. Each of us have been in a place where, you think, why doesn't anybody care, or why don't they help? And we as a technology community have the ability to actually provide that help through the internet. So the race between the socio-technical and social components, Paul Cunningham really went through yesterday in to say what a difference it makes. This is a key slide from the World Bank Development Report. So I just, just right, World Bank, WDR 2016, and you'll see this. This effort is critical for the future because we cannot leave people behind. And we don't have to. The technology community can help define projects. Each site project could be the germ of a major initiative within the country to say, here's how our country can lift itself out of poverty. But for the people of the country to have that voice, we must work at the local level. If we don't do that, the big players will do it. The big companies within a country, or the current leaders of a country, who are not necessarily always aligned with the interests of the people in the small villages. So I recommend taking a look at this WDR report. Kartik talked about individual site groups. I want to say that there's a global movement to do this, to get this done. And the groups coming together are the World Bank with their leading in, they are transforming their whole ICT practice. The leader of the ICT practice of the World Bank has moved to Singapore in order to understand how could we use cloud to provide better government services to enable the movement forward of technology so that people could help themselves. The World Library Association has 320,000 libraries in the world. Imagine the 425,000 members of IEEE joining with the 325,000 libraries. We've got a grid, a global grid that could help at the community level inspire projects. We've got the World Economic Forum. They have their annual meeting in Davos where the global elite come together, and they have made it a key priority. So this year, 2016, the year of the internet, the fourth industrial revolution was the main theme, and the impact of the internet is what the World Economic Forum is working on. So I'm one of the Global Council for the Digital Economy for the World Economic Forum. And I can tell you that the focus of Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, is on this. We need the technology community. Each one of you has a role to play. The Internet Society is all, some of you are members of both the Internet Society and IEEE, and we are all working together on this because we can only succeed in concert. The US State Department and the White House are concerned about the shift of the internet from US leadership into global leadership. It is the technology community who makes sure that we can make an internet of the people, by the people, and for the people. If you are not involved, it won't happen. So we are working closely with SITE on an ecosystem for people-centered projects, because we need to have, from our point of view, a minimum criteria of human dignity and respect for each other in the teamwork, community benefit, and in fact delivering value. I'm reinforcing so many things that Paul Cunningham said yesterday, but I'm saying it in a different kind of way, because he's from Ireland, I'm from Singapore, I lived in Palo Alto for 30 years. So it takes very, very diverse people. The more diverse team you have, the more likely you're going to have the kind of impact, which is breakthrough impact, not just incremental impact. And what the people-centered internet is doing is working with the other professional organizations. So IEEE doesn't have to feel you've got to do this alone. You don't have to learn sociology. We can join with the sociologists. We can bring in the Management Accounting Association. We bring in the Library Association. This is the big lift of our generation. Only once in humanity will the globe be connected, and it will happen in our lifetimes. If we don't make sure that it works for all future generations, we will have lost a tremendous opportunity. So I was a contractor for the US Department of Defense about the future of health. And even there, they tried to understand what in the network world would health look like. And they realized it's about networked communities. Networked communities that share lessons learned, that in fact connect to thrive. Connect to thrive is the idea that not only is it helpful to connect as we are all here together, but when we're in a team, when we connect to each other, we learn different things. We think by developing trust, we can do more than any one person alone. Connect to Thrive works both on the demand side and the supply side, because we as humans are programmed to connect to each other. We cannot exist in isolation. But it is very tricky. I was the business partner of Douglas Engelbart, the inventor of the computer mouse. He talked about the coevolution of the human system and the tool system. We are in the middle of that right now. So many people feel disenfranchised because they don't understand technology, they don't know where it's going, the robots are coming, you know. But we as technologists know it's up to us what we do with it. Technology is like fire. We can harness it for human, or we can get burned out. It's our choice. So these are some of the things that the DoD has come up with as the new skills for the networked world and network leadership, working across organizational boundaries. And then this comes from Engelbart too. I'm now the co-founder with Vint Cerf of the People-Centered Internet. I was the business partner of Douglas Engelbart, and probably most of you know that they were the first two nodes of the internet. So I have a stewardship and legacy responsibility to convey the promise of the internet. But the promise of the internet can only be done if we work this systematically. We have feedback loops to understand how individual site projects in an individual community, if there's water projects in 10 places, well, the water project should be comparing notes. What worked, what didn't work, what did we learn, and so on. So the idea of having feedback loops and using the internet for faster learning is part of the capacity building that I think the opportunity is for the IEEE site group. So just one example, yesterday was announced that the Saudi Arabian SoftBank have joined to create a $100 billion technology fund. This is huge. And that technology fund is going to have lots of people, I call them the snake oil salesmen, who say, just give me the money and I'll do good stuff. But they're all about greed and power and their own influence. We within the networks of technology people who care have to come up with the ground level projects that really affect, really impact and meet people's needs as they see it. So Connect to Thrive is a chance for us to be part of this. So Vint Cerf and the IEEE are actually going to be very prominent at South by Southwest. South by Southwest in Texas, Austin, Texas, 2017 is just thrilled to have Vint coming. And they, I will be with him there. And for any IEEE site member or potential site member, I will work with Holly to see what we can do for a private meeting for site members so that you can hear from Vint himself directly what this means to him and to the rest of the world. So, shared ecosystem platform, and there's the Saudis are just the beginning of a wave. The White House convened a social impact financing meeting last Friday, which I was at. Today, investment opportunities are few and far between. Interest rates are at zero or negative. Private money is looking for places to invest. The initial seeds that you plant in site projects could grow into huge trees because money is looking to invest. There's a lot of water and a lot of resources for those that succeed. Not everyone has to succeed. We can learn a lot. This is how we learn. We do practice projects. We learn to work in teams. You might be involved in 2 or 3 site projects before you have one that hits the jackpot that can go all the way with private or public funding. But that's the larger opportunity of site. And we are thrilled to be partnering with site to move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, May. So now we will be breaking out into 4 groups: projects, assessment, education, and capacity building. So the idea is, we will have facilitators to facilitate our breakout discussions. For the assessment, breakout session, we would have Vineet. Vineet, can you please stand up? Vineet would be our facilitator. And Vineet, would you like that corner? Yeah. So we really encourage people to break into roughly equal size groups and then go participate in one of the breakout sessions. And we would be discussing about what steps we need to take at the local level so that we meet the assessment requirement in the most effective manner. And Vineet is a member of, is the chair of the assessment subcommittee of the Humanitarian Activities Committee within IEEE. And you might have heard him talking in the yesterday's and the day before yesterday's workshop, so he is the best person to learn assessment from. So our next breakout session would be, or rather we will have this in parallel. The next one is capacity building. And Janeet, who's here, who chairs the event subcommittee of the site steering committee, and Holly would be facilitating the capacity building, parallel breakout session. And Janeet, would you like this corner?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So people who are interested in discussing about capacity building, please go to this corner. And thirdly, we'll have education. Education, we will have Pritpal Singh, the chairman of Site Education Subcommittee, leading the breakout session on the education requirement, education expectation requirement of their sites. And he would be leading the discussion in this corner, and then people who are interested in learning about education as part of site, please go and join him. And lastly, there would be a group breakout session focused on the projects. And myself and Malin would be facilitating the discussions about projects, and we'll be there at that corner. So we request you to break into roughly equally sized groups and then join these breakout sessions. Thank you.